Good evening. Welcome to the news around the world on the most listened to radio station, Agidigo, 88.7 FM, Ibadan. I am Olamide Badmos. First, the headlines. Nigerian governors proposes 100,000 as new national minimum wage. Oyo NUT calls for urgent actions on safe release of abducted pupils, teachers. Israel put United Nations sexual violence in war zones blacklist for first time. United States judge temporarily blocks Trump's $1.8 billion weaponization fund. Liverpool sack head coach and Slot approach Iraola. Now the details. The chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum and Governor of Kwara State, Mr. Abdulrahman Abdulrazak, has said state governors are considering a new national minimum wage of 100,000 naira amid rising economic hardship in the country. Governor Abdulrazak disclosed this in a Facebook post today, noting that the proposal was driven by inflation, the rising cost of living, and mounting financial pressure on Nigerian workers. According to the forum chairman, state governments are engaging the federal government and organized labor to agree on a wage structure that balances workers' welfare with fiscal sustainability, adding that consultations are ongoing to ensure that any new wage regime would not place excessive financial strain on states. A former Senate President, Senator Bukola Saraki, has urged young women to prioritize education, vocational training, and skills acquisition, describing them as essential for leadership, economic independence, and meaningful participation in national development. In a statement issued today by Senator Saraki's press officer on local matters, Mr. Abdulganiyu Abdulkadri made the call in Ilorin during a symposium which attracted young women between the ages of 18 and 25 and also focused on mentorship, empowerment, and political inclusion organized by Saraki Young Women in Politics. Speaking at the event, the former Senate President challenged the participants to remain committed to personal growth and take deliberate steps towards preparing themselves for future leadership roles, while stressing that acquiring relevant skills and knowledge remained one of the most reliable ways for young people to overcome economic challenges and become productive members of society. The Allied People's Movement (APM) has unveiled the Oyo State Governor, Engineer Shigi Makinde, as its presidential candidate for the 2027 general elections following his unanimous affirmation by the party's 36 state chairmen. Governor Makinde's emergence was ratified at a special gathering of party leaders and delegates who endorsed him as the party's standard bearer for the nation's highest office. The symbolic presentation of the party's presidential flag by the national chairman of the APM, Dr. Yusuf Dantale, formally confirmed Makinde's candidature. Agidigbo from news correspondent Oluwapemi Bamidele was at the event held in Ibadan. Here is the report.
Over the flag of the party as authority for you to go around the 36 states of the country and FCT to canvass for vote to be elected by Nigerians.
Members of the Allied People's Movement across the 36 states, led by the national chairman, Dr. Yusuf Dantale, the INEX delegation, led by the Federal Commissioner, Professor Sani Mohammed, gathered in Ibadan for the unveiling ceremony of the presidential candidates ahead of the 2027 general elections. Allied People's Movement across the 36 states, in unison, affirmed the candidature of the Oyo State Governor, Engineer Oluseyi Abiodun Makinde, and was handed the certificate of return and party flag by the national chairman. Speaking after receiving the party's presidential flag, Governor Makinde said Nigeria's security architecture must be reformed to give the state greater control over security operations.
The decentralization that we need for a more effective security will be prioritized. The safety of Nigerians will not be treated as a political talking point. It will be a national duty under my watch.
Governor Makinde further pledged to introduce a fair, transparent, and appropriate pricing structure for petroleum products, noting that domestic pricing should reflect Nigeria's production realities rather than external market considerations.
I agree that we will reset Nigeria and take the difficult but necessary decision to restructure the ownership of our refineries so Nigeria can finally stop building resources into systems that no longer serve the people effectively.
In his address, the national chairman of the Allied People's Movement (APM), Dr. Yusuf Dantale, described the emergence of Governor Seyi Makinde as the party's presidential flag bearer as the beginning of a new chapter in Nigeria's political history.
Improve the well-being of the suffering masses and set the country on the path of economic growth, political stability, prosperity, national security, peaceful coexistence, sustainable democracy, and development. Governor Oluwasegun Adesetan is the right man for the job. Let us support this campaign for president on the platform of the Allied People's Movement.
In their goodwill messages, the Deputy Governor of Bauchi State, Right Honorable Muhammad Awal Jatu, and the governorship candidate of the Allied People's Movement in Lagos State, Mr. Laja Adeoye, noted that the northern states and the whole Nigeria will align with Governor Seyi Makinde to emerge as the president of Nigeria.
We will ensure that we work head and tail to return this our gentle, hardworking brother to us of God 2024.
Earlier in his welcome address, the Allied People's Movement gubernatorial candidate in Oyo State, Bimbo Adekombi, called for the support of the candidature of Seyi Makinde so he can replicate the development of Oyo State across the country. Beyond today's formal presentation of a presidential flag and certificate of return, the gathering in Ibadan signaled the emergence of the Reset Nigeria movement. The movement is a broad political alliance that drew party leaders, candidates, and support from across the country under a common vision for national renewal. With the symbolic handover of party flag and certificate of return to Governor Seyi Makinde, the Allied People's Movement formally set in motion its campaign for the 2027 general elections. Many well-meaning Nigerians believe that Oyo State's governance record, development agenda, and national appeal would resonate with voters seeking a new direction for the country. Oluwakbemi Bamidele, Agidigbo FM News.
The Nigeria Union of Teachers (NUT) Oyo State Wing has issued a follow-up statement to express deepening concern over the continued captivity of the pupils and teachers abducted during the tragic attack on schools in the Ahore Shele and Yawota communities, precisely in Orire local government area of the state. According to a statement jointly signed by the Oyo State Wing NUT Chairman and the Secretary, Comrade Hassan Ajibola Fatai and Comrade Salami Ulukayode, respectively, the union noted that the situation has grown even more distressing following the emergence of another disturbing video released by the abductors showing victims in traumatic conditions soliciting for their unconditional release from the den of their abductors. The union views this development as both heartbreaking, barbaric, and unacceptable, as no child or teacher deserves to endure such terror, stressing that their prolonged stay in captivity is inflicting psychological pains on families, the school community, and the entire teaching profession. The union, however, called for expedited and more decisive actions from the government and all relevant security agencies. Now it is time to link up with our United Kingdom studio for the foreign news.
News from Queen Hamzat Studio at Gidigbo FM, United Kingdom. I am Olushola Damilola. Israel has been added to a United Blacklist of countries suspected of committing sexual violence in war zones. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres' annual report on conflict-related sexual violence said that in 2025, the United Nations verified multiple incidents of conflict-related sexual violence, including as a form of torture inflicted against 14 men, 7 women, 9 boys, and a girl from Gaza Strip and the West Bank. However, Israel has denied the use of sexual violence by their military. Israel ambassador to the United Nations, Danny Deno, said the country had cut ties with the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres in response to the blacklisting. Ghana's parliament on Friday approved one of the most repressive anti-LGBT laws in Africa, which is now awaiting ratification by President John Mahama. The law on sexual rights and family values imposes a penalty of up to 3 years jail for people who engage in homosexual relations and between 3 and 5 years for the promotion, sponsorship, or intentional support of LGBT activities. The bill was passed by Parliament in 2024, but former President Nana Akufo-Addo did not sign it. Although human rights groups and several international organizations have condemned the bill, around 60 countries in the world ban same-sex relations. About half of them are in Africa, according to the International Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Trans and Intersex Association. And that ends the news from Queen Hamzat Studio at Gidigbo FM, United Kingdom. I am Olushola Damilola.
Welcome back. We shall also be moving to our Maryland studio, United States, for more foreign news.
News from Kule Amzat Studio at Gidigbo FM, United States. I am Oluwatosin Sonya. A U.S. judge has temporarily blocked President Donald Trump's administration from setting up a nearly $1.8 billion fund to compensate victims of what Trump has called government weaponization. The other by U.S. District Judge Leonie Brinkema of the Eastern District of Virginia blocks the Trump administration from taking any further action to set up or operate the fund while the judge hears additional legal argument. The order will remain in effect at least until June 12. The Justice Department announced the creation of an anti-weaponization fund last week as part of an agreement to settle Trump's lawsuit against the Internal Revenue Service over the leak of his tax records. It set up a $1.776 billion fund overseen by a 5-member commission to dole out payment to those who show they were victims of lawfare and weaponization, terms Trump and his allies. The United States is ready to restart attacks on Iran if a deal cannot be reached, according to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, as negotiators from Washington and Tehran work to bridge major differences, blocking an agreement. Hegseth, speaking at the Shangri-La Dialogue, Asia's premier forum for defense leaders, militaries, and diplomats, said the U.S. cannot turn its back on the Asian-Pacific region despite being engaged in conflict with Iran. The Pentagon chief said President Donald Trump was patient and wants to make a great deal that ensures Iran does not get a nuclear weapon. On Friday, Trump said he would meet in a secure White House room to make a final determination on a proposal to end the Iran war, which would extend an early April truce for another 60 days, giving negotiators time to forge a permanent end to the conflict. And that ends the news from Kule Amzat Studio at Gidigbo FM, United States. I am Oluwatosin Sonya.
Welcome back once again, now in the exciting world of sports. Liverpool head coach Arne Slot has been sacked by the club after 2 seasons in charge. The 47-year-old Dutchman guided the Reds to their 20th league title in his debut season, but they have struggled during his second year, finishing fifth in the Premier League. Despite still qualifying for next season's Champions League, Liverpool finished with 60 points, which is their lowest tally since the 2015-2016 campaign, and 25 points behind champions Arsenal. According to Liverpool's owners, Fenway Sports Group, the decision to sack Slot was made by the group's chief executive, Michael Edwards, and Liverpool sporting director, Richard Hughes. However, Adoni Irola has been linked as the next manager to replace Slot, and is one of the most highly rated coaches in Europe and is known for his attacking style of play. To wrap up the news this evening, here is a recap of the headlines. Nigerian governors proposes 100,000 as new national minimum wage. NUT calls for urgent actions on safe release of abducted pupils, teachers. Israel puts United Nations sexual violence in war zones blacklist for first time. United States judge temporarily blocks Trump's $1.8 billion weaponization fund. Liverpool sack head coach and Slot approach Irola. And before we go this evening, here is a quick tip. Be not afraid of growing slowly.